Welcome to this episode of True Crime, where we delve into the dark and chilling world of criminal history. Today, we'll be examining the life and crimes of Gary Ridgway, known as the Green River Killer. Gary Ridgway is one of the most notorious serial killers in American history, with a confirmed body count of at least 49 women, and possibly many more. In this video, we'll take a closer look at his life, his crimes, and the investigation that eventually led to his capture and conviction. Childhood and early life. Gary Ridgway, born in Salt Lake City, Utah in 1949, he grew up in a household with an abusive father and struggled with learning difficulties in school. Despite being intelligent, he had trouble retaining information and was often teased by his classmates. This early trauma may have played a role in his future actions as a serial killer, who murdered at least 49 women in the Seattle area between 1982 and 1998. Crimes and Modus Operandi. The Green River Killer committed a series of horrific crimes in the Seattle area during the 1980s and 1990s. He targeted women who were involved in illegal works and would lure them into his truck with promises of money. Once in his vehicle, he would strangle them to death and dispose of their bodies in remote locations, often near the Green River. He used his knowledge of the area and his job as a truck painter to avoid detection for years. Despite being one of the most prolific serial killers in American history, he was only caught in 2001 after advances in DNA technology linked him to the crimes. Victims. Gary Ridgway's victims were primarily women involved in illegal works in the Seattle area. He targeted these women because he believed that they would be less likely to be missed and their disappearances would not be immediately reported. Over the years, he murdered at least 49 women, though the actual number is believed to be higher. The families of these women were left with unanswered questions for years and were finally able to find closure after Ridgway's arrest and confession. The loss of these women had a profound impact on their loved ones, as well as the communities they lived in, and their memory continues to be honored by those who knew them. The Green River Killer case serves as a tragic reminder of the human toll that violent crime takes on society and the importance of bringing perpetrators to justice. Arrest and trial. Gary Ridgway was finally arrested in 2001, after years of evading authorities. Advances in DNA technology allowed police to link him to several of the Green River Killer's crimes, and he was taken into custody. He initially pleaded not guilty, but later changed his plea to guilty in exchange for a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. During his trial, Ridgway provided extensive details about his crimes, including the location of several missing women. This cooperation allowed families to finally have closure and gave law enforcement the information they needed to solve several of the outstanding cases. Legacy. Gary Ridgway is currently serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole, and there is no imminent threat of his release. Despite being one of the most notorious serial killers in American history, he is unlikely to become a household name in the way that other infamous killers have. Instead, his legacy will be remembered through the lives of the women he murdered and the families he affected. His case is also a reminder of the ongoing need for improved law enforcement techniques, such as DNA technology, to bring perpetrators of violent crimes to justice. The Green River Killer case will continue to be studied by criminologists and psychologists in an effort to better understand the motivations and behaviors of serial killers. Ultimately, Gary Ridgway's legacy will be one of tragedy, loss, and the unending quest for justice. Psychological profile. Gary Ridgway's psychological profile is a complex mixture of childhood trauma, psychopathic tendencies, and a need for control. His abusive childhood and learning difficulties are believed to have contributed to his antisocial behavior and lack of empathy. He also exhibited traits commonly associated with psychopathy, such as manipulation and a lack of remorse. Despite being intelligent, he struggled to form meaningful relationships and often used his charm and deceit to lure victims into his trap. He also had a need for control, demonstrated by the way he strangled his victims, and the care he took to dispose of their bodies in remote locations. Despite being one of the most infamous serial killers in American history, his motivations remain unclear. and his case continues to be studied by psychologists and criminologists in an effort to understand the mind of a murderer. Influence on pop culture. Gary Ridgway and the Green River Killer case have had a significant impact on pop culture, inspiring books, movies, and TV shows. The case was one of the largest and most complex serial killer investigations in American history, captivating the public's imagination and raising questions about the mind of a murderer. In the years since his arrest, numerous books have been written about the case, offering in-depth looks at the investigation, Ridgway's crimes, and the psychological profile of a serial killer. The case has also been depicted in movies and TV shows, further fueling public interest in the Green River Killer and the dark world of serial murder. While the legacy of Gary Ridgway is a dark one, it serves as a cautionary tale and a reminder of the importance of continuing to study and understand the criminal mind. Final thoughts. Gary Ridgway is one of the most notorious serial killers in American history. His crimes, arrest, trial, psychological profile, and victims have had a lasting impact on society, inspiring books, movies, and TV shows and serving as a reminder of the tragedy that violent crime can cause. Despite being behind bars, Ridgway's legacy continues to be studied in an effort to better understand the mind of a murderer and to ensure that similar crimes can be prevented in the future. The Green River Killer case is a dark chapter in the history of the Pacific Northwest, but it is also a testament to the perseverance of law enforcement and the human spirit. It serves as a reminder of the importance of bringing perpetrators of violent crime to justice, and the need to continue to study and understand the criminal mind. Thank you for joining us on this episode of True Crime. Join us next time as we delve into another gripping case in the world of crime. See you soon.
On November 5, 2003, all doubt of Ridgway's guilt was erased. He pleaded guilty to the murders of 48 women. He'd made a deal to cooperate with the prosecution to provide more information on his victims and the whereabouts of their remains. In doing so, he avoided a trial and possible death penalty.
Mr. Ridgway, how do you plead to the charge of aggravated murder in the first degree as charged in count 1 for the death of Wendy Lee Caulfield?
Guilty.
How do you plead to the charge of aggravated murder in the first degree as charged in count 2?
Guilty. Guilty. Guilty.
It's like he didn't have any remorse at all for what he had done. You know, he'd killed so many people, he didn't remember who they were, what they looked like. I just couldn't believe that somebody could kill all those people and not remember them.
Damn.